LOL take two. LOL take two. LOL take two. Now listen.
We just celebrated the 1-year anniversary of having adopted Brodie, our Border Terrier mix rescue pup. It's hard to believe it's been a year. All we know about Brodie's previous life is that he had been picked up on the streets of Yucaipa, which is a little desert town on the way to Palm Springs. Their website calls it the Jewel of the Inland Empire. We've had to drive through it when there's road construction on the 10 freeway, and I wouldn't exactly call it a jewel, or even a cubic zirconia. If you're into trailer parks, I'm sure it's a dream come true. No wonder the poor puppy was out running on the streets. He was trying to escape. I have no idea how, but a Beverly Hills dog rescue found out about him, drove to San Bernardino, and pulled him out of the high-kill shelter he was locked up in. The poor pup got bounced around to 3 different fosters over the next year of his life, and somehow we managed to hook up with the 3rd foster through our friend Maura. Now, Maura is like the Earth Mother, industrious with a heart of gold, and she knows everybody. She's not even 6 degrees of separation between her and most people on Earth, maybe 3 degrees of separation. She had lived through the loss of our other dog, Roxy, who had died earlier in the year from an undiagnosed heart condition. She knew our hearts were broken, and so she relished at playing Maura the mutt matchmaker. His 3rd foster brought him over on a Sunday afternoon. He really was adorably cute, yet strangely mellow. In hindsight, I'm not convinced a little hit of Benadryl or CBD hadn't been slipped into his kibble before he met us. The original shelter had named him Taz, and the latest foster had renamed him Chaz. Not much better. After a half hour, the foster just laid it out. Look, do you want Chaz or don't you? Whoa, yikes, slow down, lady. The only thing missing from her sales pitch was, but wait, act now and we'll throw in this extra tube of our patent-pending moisturizer to treat your crepey skin. Neither of us was thrilled with being pressured like that, but we succumbed and said yes, with the caveat that if it didn't work out with Chaz, then we could return him. No questions asked. Since all we could think of was Chaz Bono when we heard his name, we set out to find a meaningful replacement name. Decades before, we had taken a trip from London, England to Edinburgh, Scotland, and spent a fantastic day seeing the city. It was after Christmas, so it was cold, and we came down the street from seeing the famous Edinburgh Castle and popped into a pub called Deacon Brodie's. The bartender asked us what we'd like to drink. Bill said he'd never had a single malt scotch. Oh my God, it was like one of those Wild West movies where the music stops and everybody just stared at us like we were aliens from outer space. You're in Scotland and you've never had scotch? Bill piped up, what would you recommend? Well, this caused a commotion at the bar, with the bartender and all the locals throwing out their opinions of what these 2 stupid Americans should have for our first tastes of their national drink. They lined up 4 glasses, and he told us where each bottle had been brewed. They really were delicious, and everyone watched us as we drank them. Once we finished them, there was a collective huzzah at the bar, and we were feeling no pain and warmed to our cockles. We had a train to catch back to London, thanked everyone profusely for the Scotch primer, and stumbled out of Deacon Brodie's. Thankfully, it was a downhill walk to our train. 30 years later, after that trip across the border, we decided to dump the name Chaz and to name our Border Terrier mix Brodie, after Deacon Brodie. Turns out Deacon Brodie was a fine, upstanding minister by day, but a thief and housebreaker by night. In fact, Robert Louis Stevenson based Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde on Deacon Brodie. And at first, our little Brodie turned out to be quite the Mr. Hyde. Jumping, nipping, barking, totally opposite of how he had been at the interview. The second day at our home, the garage door was open and he ran out into the street, paying no attention to the oncoming cars. He wouldn't come to us. We yelled at him, "You're not in Yucaipa, come back!" A week later, he escaped out the front door and wouldn't come back. Thankfully, I was able to scoop him up while he was taking a leak on a stop sign. He would disappear in the other half of the house, returning with his mouth filled with socks or Kleenex he had just found in the wastebasket, and wouldn't give them back. Turns out his original name at the shelter, Taz, was no doubt a shortened version of Tasmanian Devil. Conceptually, we knew that the poor pup had come from God knows where and endured God knows what, but Frankly, he was a pain in the ass, especially after our sweet box of Roxy. One time I was just madder than hell at his orneriness, and Bill had a come-to-Jesus talk with me. He said Brodie was not any of our former beloved dogs, not Roxy, nor Max, nor Elizabeth, nor Cappy, nor Spats, and would never be, and I needed to get over it. It was a turning point. The poor pup had come with such baggage. I needed to chill the hell out and just give him love. And really, who among us doesn't have baggage? Lots of it. In fact, the older you get, you need to buy out the whole Louis Vuitton store just to hold it all. I continue archiving old papers from my college days, and I found this green spiral notebook from 1985-86 that says fitness log on it. Well, it started off writing down what I weighed and what I was eating and how much I was exercising. May 17th, 1985, 20 minutes of aerobics. I feel good about my aerobic capabilities and strength, but this body fat and tone are horrid. Now keep in mind, I was 6'1" and 175 pounds and worrying that I had a body fat problem. Oh, good Lord, if my former self could see my post-COVID relaxed fit shorts from Target self, I would slap my own face. March 31st, 1985. Breakfast was a half a grapefruit and coffee. Screw it, it snowed today, so Rick and I just ate junk food. Ha ha, the great panacea for whatever ails you. Junk food. My fitness entries quickly evolved into paragraphs about who I was dating and how it was working out, all the insecurities about my talent, and where I was eventually going to end up when I moved on from Minneapolis. May 11th, 1985. It's been a real emotional day. Major money depression, but I dealt with it. Wednesday, June 26th, 1985. Well, it's just been one of those days. Kinda good, kinda bad. If I'm to treat Minneapolis in my last year here as I would, say, LA or New York, days like this are going to happen. Oh, to be able to tell younger Tony, yes, they do, and yes, you will be fine. Then we start getting into the juicy romance entries. November 17th, 1985. So then there is Larry. I have so many mixed emotions about it. And then I go on. Last night, he was in the same way. I decided to be assertive and offer some help. It worked, and he seemed to feel better. He kissed me. Well, thank God I got something out of that deal. Then, on February 16th, 2016, I write, I saw Hannah and her sisters. My steamy infatuation with Larry heated up again during this show. The whole thing seemed to bring back memories of past crushes, etc. that I've had. You know, it's amazing how things work out. I've been feeling lonely for quite some time now. Oh my God, so intense about everything at 22 years old. Now, these pages reveal an interesting slice of my life, as cringeworthy as many of these entries were. And talk about baggage. Ye gods. In hindsight, I was like Brodie, out running on the streets of Yucaipa, not knowing where I'd go or end up. Brodie came with his baggage, God knows, but something interesting happened after 6 months or so. I began to notice subtle changes, more tail wagging. No need to run out the front door if it was cracked open. More kisses. In fact, I want to say that he's made a whole 180-degree turn and become the sweetest, most affectionate dog. I wonder if this was all just him getting used to us, or was it my chilling the hell out and accepting him for who he was, baggage and all? Or maybe a little both, and we finally just met somewhere in the middle of our baggage. Speaking of baggage, when COVID started over 3 years ago, hard to believe it's been a third of a decade with this, both Bill and I lost a bunch of weight at the beginning of it. Him with Marie Osmond Nutrisystem and me using my Noom app, and we both did really well. But over the next few years, we both went up and down, and this year, sad to say, I had my yearly physical with my doc, and I forewarned him, look, I'm chunked out right now, and my numbers are not going to be good, but I promise I will get it together after my vacation next week. The doc said he'd call me with my numbers, and sure enough, a week later, Bill and I are sitting at the Pancake House in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. I see on my phone that it's my doctor calling me, and I know what he's calling about. I choose not to answer because I'm looking down at my plate of gorgeous eggs Benedict and am literally just lifting a huge piece of bacon to my mouth. He leaves a message saying, yeah, you were right, your numbers are high, but work on it this summer, cut back on red meat, eat chicken, no cheese, and we'll see you in 3 months for a recheck. That was in June, and suddenly it is early August, and I see on my calendar that my follow-up appointment is 1 month away. I call my doctor's office, and Helene, his assistant, answers. Hey, Helene, it's Anthony. Hello, Anthony. How are you doing? I'm good, but I need to reschedule my follow-up blood test for my cholesterol numbers. It's been a hot summer, so I haven't been able to walk as much, and I haven't lost much weight. Okay, any weight. So I'm going to need more time to get rid of some of this baggage before I come in for a recheck. She said, that's fine, Anthony. When do you want to reschedule? I say, how about a year from Thursday?
LOL take two. LOL take two. LOL take two. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-bum.